Hello, everyone. It is October in the Bluegrass, and that means it is finally time to talk about some spooky and creepy things. And my guest today has a new film out that is sure to get you thinking about some Kentucky legends and myths that have been told over and over again. Many of us have heard of the Moonbow at Cumberland Falls. It's a mysterious and yet beautiful phenomenon that happens when there's a full moon. But what you may not know, Cumberland Falls is a place ripe with urban legends and tales that some dismiss and others believe are real. From WKYT Podcast, this is Uniquely Kentucky. I'm your host, Amber Philpott. A dream more than 15 years in the making, urban legends, 2 Samsung Galaxy 9 phones, and a lot of scary nights spent in the woods. The end result, the first horror film written, directed, produced, and edited by Robby Chadwell. Robby, welcome. How are you today?
Great. How are you doing?
So you've got this new film out called Moonbow, and this takes us to the falls, a place that for somebody like me had no idea was ripe with all these crazy legends. Where did this idea come from?
So I grew up in Corbin, and my sister, she's a little bit older than me, and she'd always try to scare me with all these local legends. This place called Dog Slaughter Falls and Devil's Creek. There was like an old satanic church down there. So, you know, she liked to torture me as a child, and she would scare me with all these stories. So, you know, I always associated that area with those legends.
You are a guy that really has probably lived in Lexington longer than you lived in Corbin, but Corbin will always be home to you. You had written this film and put it away in a drawer for many years. What finally made you come back around to it?
Well, so I wrote the first scene actually about 15 years ago, and then I just kind of put it away, and life happened. I got married, have 2 beautiful daughters. And then I started taking them back down their vacation. We go down there and hike. And so it just started, you know, the story started going around in my head. And I always thought it was a perfect place for a horror movie. So me and my buddy went and watched this film called Bullitt County. It's an independent movie. We watched it down at the Kentucky Theater. And I was like, man, if these guys can do it, you know, why can't we? So I went home, dug out the script. It took me about 3 weeks to knock it out. And, you know, I started showing people. Got great feedback from everybody, and it kind of started snowballing from there.
Sure. Before we talk about the film and its production, let's talk about this, because maybe people that are listening maybe have never had the chance to see a Moonbow, me included. You're a guy that's from there. Have you seen it? Talk to me about what it's like when you do see it.
Yes, it's very hard to see. It has to be completely clear. And actually, the first weekend we were filming, it was out. So some of these kids from Lexington, from, you know, other towns, had never been there before, and they got to see it the first time. I've probably seen it that's maybe the 3rd time I've ever seen it in my life. So.
And I understand huge crowds of people.
Oh yeah, it's
up,
crazy.
right?
People come from all over the world. I mean, and you can't book cabins or anything down there.
Wow. So, let's talk about some of these crazy myths, because when you say Devil's Creek, Dog Slaughter Falls, those are some pretty intense places. And I did a little bit of research, so you're right. There are several different stories that go with those. Tell me about them.
Yeah, so Dog Slaughter Falls, if you've not had the chance, you got to go. It's a great hike. It's a beautiful little waterfall, but, you know, it's like, why is it called Dog Slaughter? There's all these legends. So one of the legends were there were these hunters in the 1890s, and they were hunting wild boar, and the dogs got scent of something ahead and ran up, and all of a sudden the dogs let out a big yelp at once. So the hunters ran up to see what happened, and all 7 dogs were lying dead in a perfect circle, and their blood was dripping red over the falls. That was one. There's another one that during a full moon, it makes any animal within a 5-mile radius go crazy, and they jump off the falls and kill themselves. So that's the 2 stories I heard growing up.
And then Devil's Creek was like a place where there was like a satanic church.
Yeah, they said in the
sort?
70s or 80s there was a satanic church there, which, you know, that kind of was all AC/DC, all that stuff that started happening in the 80s. Everybody started kind of freaking out about satanic churches. So, but the legend goes that there was a satanic church, and they used to do animal sacrifices and things like that. You know, the kids in the 80s would go down there and park, and like their cars would just turn off, and their engines would die, and they'd see guys in black and red robes and stuff like that. So the legend goes that the leader kind of went crazy and wanted to start doing human sacrifices. So the congregation wasn't going to have any of that. So they eventually like overthrew him. They hung him, and they buried in the cemetery down there. There's a cemetery called Devil's Creek Cemetery. And so they buried him upside down so he could never walk the earth again. And they say when it snows that his tombstone radiates heat, and when it snows, like the snow just melts.
Isn't it funny though? Like any of us that are from a small town, it's just there are so many of those stories that we grew up with.
And I mean, so there has to be some truth part of.
Are you a guy that believes in any of that?
I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy things down there.
Now, at the Moonbow, isn't it that maybe like a bride like walks across?
Supposedly. And then there's on either side of the falls, there's 2 Native American rock structures. One's the old man of the falls and one's the old lady of the falls. And you can see their silhouettes. And, I think during a blood moon, they cry and stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, let's talk about this film. It's been out for a while, kind of showing in some different places. You had a budget of about $5,000. What made you go? Obviously, I'm sure it was the budget, but what made you go with the 2 phones that you shot this on? Yeah,
for sure. It was definitely the affordability. This movie came out called Unsane, and the director, he's the guy that used to do the Ocean 11 movies. He filmed it all on a phone. And he used a DJI gimbal, and so, we just saw the quality of that film, and it looked good, and we probably spent less than $1,000 of the $5,000 on the technology, so it just kind of made it, a viable solution.
How long was the process for you to make this film?
So I started writing it last February, last year, and like I said, it took me about 3 weeks. We started doing casting in July, and we filmed it in late August, and it took 6 weeks to film it. Took another month to edit, and it's taken a couple months to do the sound and color and stuff like that.
So it's called Moonbow. Not to give anything away, but what are folks going to find in this film? What's the premise behind it?
The premise are 4 local guys from the area. They move up to Lexington, and they work at a restaurant. They take their friends down to overnight camping trip. Some of their friends have never even heard of the Moonbow, so they take them down to camp out and, just have a good time on the beach. And, the locals know these stories, so they start telling the ghost stories and start getting everybody scared. And then maybe some of the legends come true during the film.
We'll have to wait and see. If folks watch this film, they're going to see some local folks in. I mean, these are all like Kentucky folks, right?
Yeah, 100% Kentucky-made film. All the musicians, all the artwork, all the actors. And, we did two auditions at West 6 Brewery. And I think only 2 of the cast members had any kind of experience going in, so it's a lot of fresh faces, but they brought a lot of energy and excitement. I think it adds to their performance because I think some of them were really terrified while we were down there.
We should say you're a guy that you had a career. I mean, you had a really good job, and as you said, you've got a family. You have since kind of left that behind to do this. That had to be frightening.
Oh yeah.
Did your wife? It
wouldn't have happened without her. Yeah, she's totally supportive.
Oh, good.
And she's been there every step of the way, and I mean, she's probably Moonbow's biggest fan. The first time she watched the first cut of it, she started crying. So It was pretty sweet, and I couldn't have done any of it without her and her support. The kids have been great. They helped out too. They actually filmed a couple things for me, and we did some sound things with them. So it's been a, and then Luke's part of the family too. Over here is my tech guy.
Yeah,
he's off screen.
I said he was your bodyguard, your agent.
He's a little bit. He wears a lot of different hats.
Yeah, well, we said you need a good guy.
You gotta have a guy.
It has really been so fun to watch filmmaking in Kentucky. I mean, really, just in the last, maybe even just the last 5 years, it's really taken off, and that's got to be really exciting for guys like you that are just starting out, seeing things like The Burning Kentucky that just came out, and some of these other more recent films as well.
Oh, for sure, and I think you can attribute that to the technology. It's affordable, and so that means anybody can go make a story. All you got to have is a story, and just be organized and have passion, and it's going to come across in the film. And I think Kentucky's so rich in our stories and our history, and the backdrop's amazing. So I just think there's so many good stories to tell.
And you and I were talking, it's also been really interesting, I think, for you to localize or utilize local folks like the breweries. And there's so much great music happening right now coming out of Kentucky. And to be able to kind of get in with all of that and then promote your film has been pretty cool, right?
No, I think it's a hotbed. I guess it's the new Seattle, It's you got Sturgill, you got Tyler Childress, you got all these guys. And all these films popping up. So it's an exciting time to be a Kentuckian. And, that's the main thing this tour we're doing is focusing on localism and just celebrating Kentucky. So you got all these independent breweries, and, we're an independent film. So, it's the best place to go see a movie.
Yeah. Did you ever in your wildest dreams think you'd be sitting here talking about your film that you wrote, that you directed, you produced?
No, I mean, it's exceeded my expectations. I mean, it's been probably one of the greatest things I've done. Just to do it was an accomplishment, and then, you know, the best thing though is all the people we've met along the way. It's, you know, people we wouldn't have talked to otherwise, and, you know, just telling those stories and, you know, just interacting with people, and it's been the best part so far.
What do you say to folks that, you know, probably are just like you? They've got a dream, they've got a story, they've got like a little hook, but they just don't know how to take it one step further. What do you say to folks?
Just got to take it one step at a time. Yeah. Each day is going to be a problem. You just got to learn from the problems and overcome them. And that was probably the funnest part is, you know, with the $5,000 budget, we couldn't go in and fix it in post, you know, so there's no CGI in this movie at all. So we had to do practical effects, and that, you know, me outside with a water hose spraying plastic to get plastic effects of a plastic body going down the river, things like that. So, you know, just use your imagination, and you can get through anything with that.
So when did you put together, did I read, some type of film festival down there in Corbin?
Yeah, we did.
Was that a first of its
kind?
kind?
Yeah, it's the first annual Dog Slaughter Film Festival, and it was a short film festival, 10 minutes and under. We had 215 entries from 54 countries. So
54 countries?
54 countries.
Wow.
So I think one day I watched like 37 short films, and the majority were in subtitles. So yeah, it was quite a chore to get through that, but it was also, I mean, I laughed a lot, I cried. I mean, the winner was amazing. This kid from Australia, this 19-year-old kid, which Australia has a huge national interest in film. They put a lot of money into young filmmakers, and he did. It's called Irony. I think you can find it on YouTube, and it's amazing. It got a standing ovation at the festival.
Kudos to you for going back and giving back, because obviously you're up to your elbows in this film and doing this. You don't have to be doing that. It sounds like something kind of important to you to be home and doing it, and then also give others kind of their break, if you will.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's what we're trying to do is, you know, we're starting Moonbow Productions. We're starting a production company, and hopefully we can keep growing every year. And I would like to do scholarships and, you know, do internships and bring kids in for the summer. Hey, you get a crash course in learning how to make a movie. You're going to get the experience of a lifetime, and hopefully it'll inspire other stories. And, you know,
are you a guy that I'm always thinking about the next story, like what makes a good story? So are you somebody that's always thinking about what am I going to do next?
Well, I finished writing a sequel about 4 months ago.
Okay.
So we're going to start pre-production in November. We'll start casting next January, and we're going to film next summer. And then I'm already about 30 pages into the next one after that. So I've got 4 or 5 ideas after that I just got to sit down and get.
Is horror your thing, or do you have all kinds of ideas? Is that
starting with horror, I think, and then I have other ideas. I think my third film is going to be a comedy, so it's actually going to be called Tombstone Junction.
I love everything about that. Love everything about that. If people want to find more out about this film, but obviously you guys and like what's coming down the pike, how do people find you?
We're on social media at Moonbow Movie. We have a website, moonbowmovie.com.
Upcoming showings, maybe.
So we got a little break here. We did one last night in E-Town at Flywheel Brewery, and it was awesome. Actually, Sunday night. And the next showing is at Rock House Brewing on October 11th, and then we go to Ashland, Kentucky on the 12th.
Cool. So just keep up with social media.
Yeah, we have the full schedule and all the tour dates and stuff.
Where did this ever come for you? Did you have a love as a child for film? And
yes, I did. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, a Spielberg disciple, you know, watching all those movies, Indiana Jones, and then Lucas, Star Wars. So yeah, just my childhood, a big part of it was going to the local theater and getting, you know, just getting swept away by these stories.
So maybe this next film you're going to have 4 phones, not just 2. You
hopefully,
think, budget-wise?
Yeah, and we had a drone also for 3 days until my director of photography, Daniel Hamlin, if you're listening, he crashed it into the river. So hopefully I have a couple drones and a couple phones. But yeah, I think we're going to keep with the technology. By the time next summer, it'll be the SG-11 will be out. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think the technology is going to get better and better, and we're kind of getting on the ground level of it. And
if Daniel Hamlin is listening, will he get to use the drones again since he crashed
No, we're going to
drone?
make him sign an insurance waiver for the next drone flights, or maybe we'll send him to drone school.
Probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, a couple more questions. Like the craziest thing that happened to you guys while you're filming. Can you narrow it down?
So my wife had to do a stunt for one of the actresses. She couldn't perform the stunt. So the stunt was swimming across the Cumberland River. And I was
that's quite the stunt.
Yeah, and I was about 40 foot up on this rock filming the scene, and so she has a wig on it because the actress had naturally dark curly hair, and my wife has brown hair. So she has this wig on and full clothes, and she's swimming across the river. Well, she gets about 3/4 of the way, and the current just gets a hold of her. And so she starts going down, and we had a safety team. We had a kayak and a guy down the river with a rope, things like that. But the rescue crew, the kayak hits into the other guy that was in the water, so they almost flipped. But yeah, they got in and got her out. And so I make my way down off the rock, and I come up, and the first thing she's like, "Did you get the shot?" So she was a trooper about it.
She was worried about that.
No, she was a trooper about it, but that was probably the craziest thing.
All right, and how about the coolest thing, or like the most memorable that's not
I think
crazy?
just the cast. So none of the casts really knew each other. So after the first weekend, like when everybody was leaving, everybody's giving each other hugs and exchanging phone numbers, and we created this family atmosphere and something we all went through together. And that's I talk to these guys once or twice a week, and it's just a new family, so that's probably been the best part.
That's awesome. We named this podcast Uniquely Kentucky, and I always like to hear from folks what you think makes Kentucky so unique and its folks.
Man, there's so many things. I think just our spirit and our passion. I mean, if you look at the Wildcats, we're so passionate about that. We're passionate about our horses, passionate about our bourbon, and I think now hopefully we can be passionate about our film, and we got great musicians, and I think just our pride in the state. I think that's what's the most unique thing about Kentucky.
Well, Robby Chadwell, I appreciate your time. If you've got a minute and you can check his social media and the website, check out Moonbow, check out where it's going to be. It's one of those films that you're going to want to see. I mean, it's from someone local. You got to go check it out, and that's the best part. And hopefully we'll see lots more from you in the coming future. You think so?
Yes, for sure.
All right.
We'll be back for the sequel. Thank you, Amber.
Robby Chadwell, thank you.